Hi everybody, so I did my case study this semester on Fyre Festival, so let's get into what Fyre Festival was and how it was a crime. Fyre Festival was promoted to be a new type of music festival. It was supposed to be better than Coachella and Burning Man, and it was going to take place on a private island in the Bahamas with great performers like Blink 182, luxurious accommodations that costed upwards of $12,000, as well as Michelin star meals. This new festival was the idea of William Billy McFarland, otherwise known as Billy. In the past, Billy had other business ventures. His newest venture was Fyre Festival, and his goal here was to promote an app called Fyre Media that would make booking talent performances easier. Other business adventures that Billy had was an exclusive credit card called Magnizes. It was an invitation-only credit card that provided members with perks like tickets to events. These perks eventually stopped being met, which is when members lost trust in the credit card and resulted in him having to move on to a new business adventure. So when you put a new type of music festival with someone who has a history of suspicious business adventures, what do you get? You get Fyre Festival. So what actually happened is that when festival goers arrived in April 2017, they realized that the whole thing was a scam. The Michelin star meals turned into cheese sandwiches. Performers like Blink 182 dropped out prior to the arrival of festival goers, and the luxurious accommodations were disaster relief tents with wet mattresses. When the festival goers tried to return to Miami, which they flew in from, they encountered a different problem. A lot of them had no money because it was supposed to be a cashless event, and they loaded a wristband. Conditions at the airport also were horrible. They were locked into a room with no food or water. Overall, the festival was not ready. So, the investigation. Upon investigating, the FBI found that McFarland consistently provided misrepresentations to his investors. Fyre Media and McFarland's own financial condition and stability were overstated through fabricated reports that were shown to these investors. Through McFarland showing that he was financially well off, he personally guaranteed the investment, which is what convinced a lot of investors to give their money to him. And at one point, McFarland even had a person who he personally paid to fabricate these reports. To investors, there were also fake promises made about investors' insurance that actually didn't exist. These investors did find this out the hard way. And the investigation also discovered the fraudulent activity that McFarland has been involved with. There are 4 different cases. The first scheme that was discovered is his scheme to defraud investors in Fyre Festival. There were 80 investors, and he stole about $24 million from them. The next scheme was his scheme to defraud a ticket investor by having them pay $2 million in advance for a block of tickets for the 2017 and 2018 Fyre Festival. Following McFarland's arrest in June 2017, where he was charged for wire fraud and then released on bail, he was arrested a second time in June 2018 for his ticket selling scam. Investigation showed that after he was released on bail, McFarland was instructing an employee to sell fraudulent tickets to big events like the Met Gala, Grammys, and Burning Man. This employee was contacting the victims and signing papers under McFarland's orders. And when this scam was discovered, McFarland tried to place all the blame on this employee. The investigation also showed that McFarland had forged a check for $25,000 from this employee's bank account to give to his chauffeur. The employee had no knowledge about this. On to court proceedings. McFarland was charged with 3 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of bank fraud. In court, the prosecution had to prove that McFarland met the 5 elements of wire fraud, which are these found right on the screen. McFarland met all these elements. All of McFarland's schemes included deception as well as an intent to defraud, because McFarland used misrepresentations and had a goal when speaking to people who would later become his victims. A type of wire was used in all his schemes. His schemes resulted in investors and ticket buyers losing money, and these schemes did cross state lines. Fyre Festival was on an international level. So what was the resolution? To decide how to best deal with McFarland, both the government sentencing memorandum and the McFarland sentencing memorandum were used. The government wanted a guideline sentence of 188 to 235 months in prison. The government claimed that McFarland still had no respect for the law because after pleading guilty, he continued to be involved with fraudulent schemes. There was a need for deterrence. McFarland's legal team claimed that his fraudulent behavior was an honest mistake. McFarland was made out to be a good person in this memorandum. McFarland's legal team suggested a sentence of 6 months of home confinement or a minimal period of incarceration, 1,000 hours of community service, and 3 years probation. McFarland, in this memorandum, was claimed to have accepted full responsibility for his actions, and the ridicule that he experienced through social media should be a reason to lessen his sentence. Ultimately, it was decided that to provide the deterrence effect while still having a fair punishment, McFarland would have to serve a 6-year sentence in prison, have 3 years probation, and have to pay a little over $26 million back in restitution.